Let's speed it up. It's a bit dragging. Try not to be too fast.
How about comments on the proclamation first? Sherry?
I think you said the word of the Lord instead of the gospel of the Lord. That's what I thought the pace was, and it was a long one. And those are hard, and all those places are hard to pronounce. You did very well. I mean, with conviction. So, that was very good.
You kept me following the story. It's a gospel I've read a lot, as much as anyone has read it or heard it. But you had me following me on the Jordan to the seashore, to the seashore with those Gentiles, and picturing that he's going to see the Gentiles. For some reason, that's not a click with me before. And it's going to be the Gentiles.
I could feel your urgency to read it, to get through it, more than I could hear the words. I mean, I could hear what you were saying too, but I thought it was just a little bit fast. And not all the way through either, just like probably toward the center of it.
John?
One thing I noticed is a couple of places there where we broke the sense units up. We're being a little tighter on this now. We're a little choppy on the sense units of the sentence. And just be careful to make sure that you follow the complete thought, even if you're doing it slowly, which is okay, to not put a pause in the middle of the sense unit and then start again because it makes it choppy. So keep the sense unit flowing and then take a pause at the end of that sense unit.
I think it's integrating the homily with the proclamation. What I mean by that is I was anxious to get to my homily.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's just get through this so I can get to my homily. And I think that's really a bad attitude because some people will get a lot more out of the proclamation than any homily given.
Yeah.
So I mean, just keep that in mind.
As Father Steve Thomas said, when I think it was, no, I'm sorry, different, last year's class, the class I had, when we were talking about the length of readings and choosing music and all that, he said what he would tell when people complain about, the length of the homily as opposed to the reading, trying to get that across to the priests, he said, I would gently ask them, Father, what is more important, the Word of God or yours?
Yeah.
So, Frank, you had
I
another
was just going to agree with what, before you said what you just said about anticipating the homily, I was thinking that. And in a way, the easy part of what we're doing here, proclaiming and doing a homily, should be the proclamation of the same, because we're anxious about the homily, and we're letting our anticipation of the homily interfere with the easy part of what our job is, right?
Easy but more important.
Easy but more important.
Anyone else? Good. Yeah, the only thing I was going to point out was what Sherry said, that the word of the Lord is supposed to be gospel. Okay, what about the first part of the homily?
Well,
Larry?
I got a little confused because he said he had 2 points, which was the Bible story and the fish. And unless I missed it, we never got to the fish.
Yeah.
Which is good because it would have been too much. So.
Yeah.
No,
What's the fish
I
about?
lost the part on the fish. It's here, but I forgot about it.
You can tell us now.
That was good though, that you did it.
Well, actually, about the fish, I was going to hold up the fish and says, what Jesus is telling us in this is, we're not to hook fish. We're to get people hooked. To get people hooked on Jesus. That was my finish, and it was in the notes, but I just I was introduced Diana, I kind of forgot about it. But basically, that was the story. Hooked on Jesus.
Right?
I need to say this, but when you start talking about an onion, I thought of Shrek and Donkey. conversation about layers of an ogre being compared to an onion. And I just saw that movie, it was on. But anyway, aside from that, what kept me going, you kept me going and you kept me hooked on what you're talking about. And I was able to get the thread and follow you when you were going. So it worked out.
Good analogy. I mean, very good analogy.
Can I ask, can you guess, because I actually wrote out a one sentence or actually 5-word phrase of what, can you guess what the theme was? I mean, what was the theme?
To get involved in your parish, to do ministry.
Well,
Maybe that's not the exact word, but
no, but it's something
it's
like that. It was like the universal call to ministry. All kinds of things. That's what I was trying to get across.
Yeah, I got baptized. How many people are baptized? How many people been converted? That was really good because it got people involved. But I was very impressed with your enthusiasm of walking out. You know, if anybody was ready to take a nap, they couldn't. You know, because you were coming
That's
out.
why the gospel was written so fast, because I was like up there reading. It's like, I want to get out there. I want to get out there.
No, but if, you know, if you're sitting there going, okay, now it's time for my little snooze, you couldn't have done it because of the way you just walked out and started in. You know, just woke everybody up and then got people involved with the questions. If you were going to be sitting there complacent, you couldn't because you had the answer.
Martha? I like your use of props because, you know, I'm a visual person. So when you're talking and you're proclaiming, when you're doing your homily, I'm visualizing like fisher, fishing. I'm visualizing the word, and also when you're kind of Santa Claus of the baby Jesus, you know.
Thanks, Jen.
To me, that was really effective, you know. I'm a simple person, so that's who you'll be, you know, talking to in the pews is someone that, you know, comes from the community, and so. You know, for me, it helped with your homily that you both were saying. And also I got about the ministerial service as well, you know, your call.
Angela?
I was like really anticipating what you're going to talk about, the fish. Because I already had something in my mind. And I was talking on a break time to Ike and Sherry that fish like symbolize that they always leave their eyes open even when they're asleep. So as a spiritual person, you always like stay awake, always be aware and awake. So like in Korea, when you go to temple, there is a fish hanging in the temple, the roof. It reminds all the monks that they need to stay awake. And one of our St. Paul publisher in our country, they make all these spiritual books. The symbol is the fish, like stay awake. So I was like trying to see if you're going to say something about that. So it's like stay awake.
That would make another good homily. Bring out the fish for stay awake.
And I'll use this.
You can borrow my fish. It's a pillow, actually.
Okay, it's a pillow. Ray, Mike, and Remy.
Okay. I like Joe when he comes into the preaching because he's so dynamic. I forgot to critique him. I got too involved already in what he's talking about. And content-wise, I like the way he challenged the listener to be proactive with the gospel. So that's really very interesting to me.
a lot of it's already been covered. I also was kind of left dangling with the fish, like, what's he gonna talk about? But what I like, especially how you went prior to today's gospel, kind of give a brief thing about what happened before that, to make us understand a little bit better what today's gospel is about, and you know what the call is and all that. I really like that. That was really good the way you did that. You know, you didn't really go like real deep into it. Just here's what they talked about before. Here's what happened before. Now this is what we're talking about today. But it all kind of like flowed and tied in together. Thought that was pretty good. But like, so you left me hanging. So once the fish coming in,
Come back next Sunday, Mike.
That's like you come back. It was just a ploy.
That was the part.
It's not the fish.
Remy?
Oh, I like Diane's ending when she said, what kind of follower are
Oh, yeah.
you?
I thought we knew that.
She said, are you going to remain in the manger or go all the way to Calvary? It's a very nice
Like
reflection.
Frank?
The strong point for me on yours, Joe, is when you got into mentioning volunteers, because I've had that same conversation about ministers that aren't volunteers.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
call them recruits, that's a strong word, but, but it, it says there's an obligation there that you know, which is good. And back to the major of the recruit, that you have an obligation to do this. That's good.
I'm going to use this next ministry Sunday. Actually, my birthday.
September.
Maybe do it this September.
Good. Frank? And Francisco?
Oh yes, I felt the same way. It's very dynamic, and also I listen to easy understanding to me, but only a little bit fast to me, so a little bit slow to spell. So that's it.
How did you get an idea that you start first and then turn to Diane? That was very nice. Is that how you do in your parish? Some of
No.
the deacons?
We were
We've never
told,
seen it done this way
Oh,
before.
really?
we were told that by
We're
Chuck
told.
and Marge, I think. Was it Chuck and Marge that told us?
Somewhere along our journey,
Yeah, I
we were
think so.
told that sometimes
I think
parishes will have
that's good. I
both
think that's,
people.
That the deacon couple will actually.
yeah,
We
right.
thought we'd try it.
And because sometimes there is like a woman's point of view, and the way you explain about like how your children live and how you felt and all of this, it's different when man is explaining, and so it's like a feminine view, and it's really nice like together. So I think that's
Actually, when I read hers, what I told her is I said, you know what? Mine's very intellectual. It's analytical. Like there's baptism, recruit, and I said, yours touches the heart. Mine's up here, yours is down here.
right, yeah.
Because hers is much more.
We wrote separately, totally, until, when did you read mine, yesterday morning?
Yeah, I read it.
Friday morning was the first time you read mine, and, you know, they worked well together. Of course, I couldn't read his because he did it spontaneously, but, you know, he gave me pointers enough of it. Oh, you did deliver it.
You know, this is a kind of a little trick. I ended up not using it, but it gave me great comfort. See, I had this, but I didn't look at it, obviously, otherwise I would remember the fish, but you know, so it wasn't really spontaneous. I made notes, but I never really used it, but it just made me feel comfortable enough to come out here. You know, otherwise, I would have felt like, what if I forget something? I felt like, well, if I forget, I'll just say, well, you know, looking at the map. But people couldn't see it,
It looked very professional with the Bible. I'm like, oh, okay, that priest is studying priest.
I just wanted to say that I was challenged by what you had to say, Joe, too, about recruits instead of volunteers, and also that hits home with me, because I think too many times, you know, we don't ask people to help us. You know, and a lot of people in our parishes, we find out later on, they're just kind of there waiting to be asked. And yeah, we get our no's from people because they can't, they've got children or whatever the reason is, and it makes us afraid to ask again, but the challenge is to keep asking and to realize that we are all recruits, we're not volunteers.
Anyone else? Third?
The two together, it flowed good. And she picked up, and, I mean, I know she's used to cleaning up after Joe, but it went well. It flowed together, they complemented each other. It
The
was great.
transition was really nice.
Anyone else? Sure?
Are we going to talk about Diane too?
Yes,
Okay.
I want to finish.
Joe first?
Joe.
Okay.
John, did you want to say anything?
No, I'll go into it about that.
Yeah, I thought it was the same point that Mike made, a good way of explaining, the gospel, the readings before and after. It's good, something.
Tell us a little bit about, and it helps people to I think it asks people to look at the reading before and after the gospel, if you're going to do that. Remember how that Albert's Day, forget it, told us that that's what we should do. Not just take that out, but read before and after and see what the bigger picture is. Dr. Bill, it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Diane?
What you said at the end really hit me hard about whether we're just going to be a part of the Christmas celebration or we're going to follow Jesus all the way to the cross. And that's what I'm left with, is the basic challenge of, you know, how real is this? How seriously do you take what you say you believe? And I really appreciated that. And it wasn't done in a way that was confrontational at all. It was just a way of, you know, reflect on and think about this.
It was an invitation.
Yeah. I thought that was great.
Sure.
I like the questions that you asked about being honest and like if you get too much change and not cheating on your tax and stuff like that, because that's everyday lived experience stuff. But I think that it's more of a call, instead of a call to ministry and sign up for something, I think it's more of a call to live the life that Jesus calls us to, fire baptism. You know, that, and it's in such an everyday, down-to-earth way that we're really called to live that way, but we forget about those little things and we think they don't count. But, you know, they pile up. But I thought it was very good, very challenging, and something to ponder.
You're right, though. So my example weren't on point with what I was trying, the point I was trying to make was just like called it holiness rather than called to discipleship. So, yeah, you're right.
Anyone else? Sol?
I like the, when you discuss the discipleship is equated to sacrifice. And that is very true. Like all the things that we do, it's not really easy, especially in this time. We are very counter-cultural. Where, you know, it's really hard to tell them, no, that's not the way it is. And that's where we are. And then when you touch upon, okay, our kids leaving, and then at the same time leaving when there's some, that is a lot of sacrifice for both parents and kids. But again, and I'm looking at that and meditating, that is what we're all about when we follow Jesus. Because we're engaged in the mission. That we're not just there to follow, but we have to do. So that is very good.
First of all, I thought you were really good. I thought you spoke, you know, you hurried it all along. You spoke in and out as well. Pace, tone, you didn't see nerves at all. But I also like your analogy about the family, about the children being sent out to college, leaving the family nest behind, and also about the sons leaving the father, that work still has to be done and everything. I can identify with that, you know, just being, you know, having family, being a parent, whatever. My kid just takes off and leaves or whatever, you know, because she's called. But it also spoke to me about if Jesus asked me to leave and drop everything and just leave and go with him, you know. That's a very challenging thought. Yeah, so it's also very good.
Right?
The point you made about those two sons just jumped out of the boat and leaving their father there. I've often thought about that too, and I'm ready for if I was their father, swinging an oar at it. But aside from that, now just you up there, your presentation, heart and mind, and Joe, I listened to you thinking that I could be tested on this, and I better listen. Okay?
Yeah.
And listening to Diane, and it was just listening to, you know, your mother talking to you, or somebody talking to you, and it was from the heart. It wasn't in the same way, and it was listening to, in totally two different ways of listening. There was ease of listening to Diane, whereas there was, you know, there wasn't ease.
Challenge.
Yeah. You know.
very smooth, very just like soaking through. And both talking about the same gospel, but saying the different way. But I came up with the same core main kind of idea in my mind. Joe was ministry, and yours was a mission. And after all, it's the same. So it's like, oh, they're saying a different way, but they're concluding with the same theme. That's what I got, mission and a ministry and a mission.
Mike?
Yours made me think, because when you talked about how the disciples or the parents that they left sacrificed for ministry, and what are we going to sacrifice? That's what stuck with me. What am I going to give up to do ministry? Because it does involve sacrifice, which ties into what Joe says, we're not volunteers. It's all ministry. And if we're going to do ministry, it may be we got to stay home from a party one day or something. So the sacrifice part of that really stuck with me.
Oh, Jesse?
Yeah, the message was great. With one gospel reading, there was a lot of messages that we heard, like Angelica said, which is great, and the flow, the connection, and everything. I'm just not sure at the end. It seems like, to me, with quite a few landings, or a couple more. Could be mistaken, but it seems like you could have landed earlier and then went up again and tried another attempt.
John?
That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting because I wanted to hear if there's anything that didn't work for anybody. And that was kind of weird, you know. It flowed beautifully and it went well. But I would say, and I thought of what Larry said earlier, it was long and you need to boil it down a little bit, get more essence. The messages were wonderful. But I'm thinking of your average parish church. Okay, this group will sit, we'd listen to you all day.
Yeah,
Not a problem. But you got to think about the average parish church you ran about 16 minutes. Yeah. And I'm thinking about your average people who are going, and they'll let go, but even though your message is great. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, you both have great messages. See if you can glean it down a little bit more on both parts. The same thing as the message is great, but to boil it down a little bit, you know, knock about 3, 4, 5 minutes, 4 minutes off of it, maybe you'd be fine. Because you know, you want to try to keep a regular homily at maybe between 7 and 9 minutes if possible, because you think of the adult attention span. If you have 2 of you, that'll kind of restart you a little bit, and you go a little bit longer. But you don't. If you run too long, you're going to run into the. I have a tennis game today.
Yeah.
And people get distracted and they'll let go. So that was what I wanted to say is, and I think it really followed on a little bit what Jesse was saying, that the messages were all good. People got a lot out of it. It's good. This group will listen to everything, but I was trying to listen as a parishioner. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, how long are we going to go?
Did that include the proclamation?
No, not including the proclamation.
Yeah. I
just want you to be a little aware of that. I mean, it was probably, you know, I was kind of estimating a little bit. I could be off by a couple of minutes, but it was pretty close. Because I looked, you started almost about 25 after, and it was 40. I was looking at my watch, and it was 41 when we finished.
And there was some things I could have cut out that, you know, I think we should have shared maybe a little earlier in the week than we did. Like I had also written back about the baptism and the desert, and I could have left that out. And I should.
Yeah, I heard the repeat.
Yeah, that was a repeat.
That was at the very beginning of yours, though.
Yeah, it was.
That would be really.
She's exactly right. It was at the beginning.
Yeah, I could have cut that out.
So that's why you got, if you're going to do it together, make sure you're not repeating each other or yourself, and then you'll be fine. And I think if you probably gone through that a little bit and picking some of that, gleaned that a little bit, it'd been great. Just boil it down a little bit, you'd be good. Because you don't want to lose, with a message as good as you guys had, you don't want to lose your people.
Angela was so right about, you know, the ministry and the message. That one way, that's such a way of putting it, so great, yeah.
And I like the team, I like the two of you doing it.
I
think
do
it's
too,
great.
I thought it was wonderful. You complement each other very well.
We think differently.
Because of the fact that you do think differently, and also because of the masculine and feminine aspects. You know, you're going to bring out a different, you obviously can have the same theme, you know, but you brought it out, and you're going to always bring it out in different ways, because you're not just different people, but you're also man and woman. So therefore, there is going to be a different perspective that you come from, and that's good, because when Angela was talking about, you know, what you were saying, Diane, initially when she was saying, you know, you brought out a different perspective, and that's good, because we women, when we go to church, generally, all we get is the male perspective. You know, so it's good to have a woman give a woman's perspective, because you'll get, most of your people out there are women. So you do need to get somebody who speaks our language, you know, because a woman will speak our perspective. So that's good. I would just also agree with John, if you're going to do it, combine it a little bit earlier so you can cut